So as you were taking steps to reduce rules and kind of look at your policies, your procedures, and even maybe more so just practice sometimes, um, what concerns were coming up? You know, what concerns of like, okay, is this gonna work? And so what concerns did you have and what concerns did staff have?
I think part of it was, I think one of you guys touched on it earlier, that misconception that it's gonna be a free-for-all. That we're, without rules, it's just gonna be chaos, and we're not gonna be able to manage things. And so just talking through that it's not that there are no expectations for behavior, or minimum expectations. It's more about how do we convey those to people.
I think for us it was that, we had that core group of advocates that it was their idea to move forward with this. And as we had attrition and bringing new shelter staff on board, it became very clear those that were supportive and those that were not. And those that were not had a really difficult time and wanted, kept trying to pull things back to, we need more rules. And I think that it really centered on voluntary services, became really a hot button issue of, well, they won't meet with me, so we really need to be able to make this person meet with me. We're not going to get my hours, people are not going to do anything, instead of really back to, it's the expectations of that you should have of staff, that they are going out to engage with residents and really bringing them into services rather than waiting for people to come to them.
Yeah.
And in those first phase of things, I think it was, oh, wait a minute, this starts with part of being able to sustain this is that we need to hire two people who are going to be, support the values, beliefs, and philosophies that are behind the Shelter Rules Project. I mean, they have to fully commit, again, to that empowerment and self-determination, and a commitment to that you're going to do everything that you can to eliminate that power differential.
Yeah.
And if you can't even acknowledge that there is a power differential and that there's a problem of having that power differential, that's one of your first signs that this is not going to work for somebody.
And ours was a lot like that too, as far as the expectation piece of it. There was that whole, let me step back and say that overall, staff at the Crisis Center was very open arms.
Yeah.
Because again, we weren't really doing a whole lot of enforcement anyway, but where it came down to was kind of the nuts and bolts of our day-to-day life. Of, you mean I can't tell someone that there's a punitive action if they don't come to support group? That's correct. You mean support group can't be mandatory? That's correct. Well, what if no one comes? Well, then if no one comes, what that would require then is for you to create a group that people want to come to.
Yeah.
And so if they're not coming, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And so you need to figure out what that reason is and sit them down and ask them, how about that? And then when they tell you, then you create a group that's built around what our residents say they need, not what we think they need, because how do I know? How do I know? And then so there was that, and so that was the process of working through and what do things look like now, and can we give prizes and all of that? Sure. Whatever incentive you think you need, if that's what's going to work, then that's fine. But we had to take a look at all of those things. But where I felt the most resistance, for lack of a better term, was from my board of directors, who said, "Have you lost your mind?" Because they don't spend the day-to-day life at the Crisis Center. They don't sit in the shelter. They don't advocate for the residents staying there. They don't do any of those things. And so in their minds, what they think is that rules is the way to go. And so I had most of my time saying, okay, look, we're not doing it anyway. And have the same conversations like we've already talked about. Is the natural punishment for not doing your dishes that you're homeless? No. And everybody could jump on that and say, oh, well, that makes sense and that makes sense. And so it was more of, again, it was all conversational, but sometimes they were pretty intense conversations. And again, it was more from the leadership as it was compared to what the advocates were wanting to do. And then the other thing, I'm sorry, there was one other thing. It was the biggest fear of, what do I do then? And so if this happens and we don't have a policy in place or we don't have a rule, what do I do then? And so more of those teaching moments of you figure it out, but you figure it out by, again, having a conversation and building the trust and having enough rapport that someone can be honest with you and you work through it that way.
Yeah.
And so I think once we alleviated the fear concerns of, I'm not going to know how to do my job, course you do. You've been doing it all along, it may look different now, but you're still doing the same things and providing that encouragement and that reinforcement. And then it just became commonplace the day after day, this is how we do it.